Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so we're talking about the New York Knicks and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Um, I'm doing all of my thinking in this video just like I often do. So we're going to figure this out here together. The first game, of course, is tonight, which is 5/19 at 5 o'clock. All of the games, 1 through 7, will be at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So you don't have to do any adjustments in regards to that. First one's going to be tonight, Tuesday. Thursday is the next one. Saturday, which is 5:23, is game 3, and then Monday, 5:25 is game 4. On Wednesday, 5:27 will be game 5, and then game 6 will be on Friday, 5:29, and then game 7 will be 5:31 in New York, since the New York Knicks have the home court advantage. This is going to be an interesting series because I don't think these teams know each other very well. When you consider the changes that the Cleveland Cavaliers have made, the Knicks have only seen the Cavs once since those changes were made, and the Knicks lost the game by several points. They've only seen each other 3 times this season. The Knicks won the series 2-1, but that was before Cleveland made the changes to their roster. So these two teams are going to have a fill-out phase, and it's going to be very, very important that they pick up on one another rather quickly. The New York Knicks have been playing like a buzzsaw lately, blowing through teams left and right, coming off of a clean sweep of the Philadelphia 76ers. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Cavaliers have played 2 Game 7 series, one being against Toronto, a very strong, bulky, push-around team. The next being the Detroit Pistons, which is also another strong, bulky, push-around team. So one thing that Cleveland has proven is that they can overcome physicality. I don't know that the Knicks aren't the least physical team that they've run into in these playoffs, and I think that may count for something a little more than Knicks fans may want it to. I think the Knicks fans are the mindset that they should blow through teams because they have been. The Atlanta Hawks, they won that in 6, and in the final 2 games were won by more than 20 points. In fact, they won game 6 of that series by 59 points. They're a buzzsaw right now. They're killing teams. Philadelphia lost game 1 by 39. Is that right? I think 39 points. And game 4, the swept game, they lost by 30 points. So the Knicks right now should feel like they're the Thunder or the Spurs or better because they're just blowing through teams. I think the problem is with believing that is not taking into account just how flawed the 76ers were and just how flawed the Atlanta Hawks are. They are flawed basketball teams. This is not Cleveland. Cleveland is a team that's been playing for their lives, playing with a lot of energy, and have had to play a lot of basketball because of it. The Knicks have been waiting for about a week. They haven't played since 5/10. It is 5/19, if I'm not mistaken. They have been playing They haven't played basketball in 9 days. So that's also something to take into account going into this series. Donovan Mitchell's coming off a pretty strong performance after I thought he had wet the bed in Game 6 against the Detroit Pistons. He came back and redeemed himself in Game 7, and they won that game by several points. Give me just a second as we take a look at the Cleveland Cavaliers playoff history here. They won that game by 21 points. So the Cleveland Cavaliers have had to fight and get it out of the mud. 7 games, both series. The first one they had home court advantage. The second one they didn't. The Detroit Pistons have been the number 1 seed all year. You got these teams with these 250-pound bruisers that they've had to play 2 Game 7 series against. I think that there could be something said for fatigue and just wear down, especially those who have had to push up against players as much as the Cleveland Cavaliers bigs have. So let's check out that Cavaliers roster. We'll run down just the names here in just a second as I pull up where I've secured that. All right. So Jared Allen, Thomas Bryant, Keon Ellis, Tristan Enaruna, I've never heard of him. James Harden, Sam Merrill, Riley Minix, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Larry Nance Jr., Craig Porter Jr., Tyrese Proctor, Oliver Sarr, Dennis Schroeder, Max Strus, Naquan Tomlin, Jalen Tyson, and Dean Wade. So this is a team that I think Cleveland has really just blew up my idea that this physicality and having all these 250 dudes and being able to bully people around is ultimately going to beat them. They have been able to match that physicality. They've been able to out-execute those teams, and they've done so off the backs of their two superstars, James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. Where Harden doesn't play well, and this is something I said when they made the trade for James Harden, and I liked him going to Cleveland, it was because he's had so many Game 7s and so many closeout games where he's disappeared. He had another one in Game 7 against Detroit, and it didn't matter because Donovan Mitchell went off. You know, it's one of those situations where James Harden is really in a position to not necessarily be responsible for the bulk of what happens out there. So it's a perfect role for him. It's probably the role he should have been in his entire career. He'd probably have a couple of championships if he were playing the number 2 guy role as opposed to the number 1 guy role most of his, if not all of his career. Now he's in a position to be that number 2 guy. And, you know, the thing that the Detroit Pistons ran into, which is something that I hinted at but didn't drive home, is that Donovan Mitchell and James Harden are free throw merchants of the highest order. They get to the line. And the free throw discrepancy in that series was overwhelming. Going into that series, I said it's 2-on-1 with the Cleveland Cavaliers because it's Cade Cunningham versus James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. And not only is it just what you're going up against in regards to their game, but it's also the calls that they're going to get and the amount of free throws that you're going to get. You just don't have that demand on the Detroit Pistons, and I thought it would ultimately hurt the Pistons in the end, and it did. It went exactly the way I thought it would. I said it would go 7. It went 7 Cleveland's way, and now I look at this and I say it's a little different going up against New York because they have Karl Anthony Towns, who's going to get his free throws. He's a superstar. And they got Jalen Brunson, who's playing some of the best basketball of his entire career right now. Best time to be playing it, too. He was stellar against those Philadelphia 76ers, although I will admit I didn't watch very much of that. They just blew past them boys. It wasn't even close. Philly had issues up and down the roster as it pertains to guys being healthy and contributing. It just wasn't happening for them. And the Knicks just bulled past him. And the question for the Knicks is this who you are against everybody, or is this just who you were against the Sixers and the Atlanta Hawks? Well, the Hawks team I thought probably had a chance of beating the Knicks. I did pick the Knicks at 6, and I think they did win it at 6 if I'm not mistaken. But the manner from which they embarrassed the Hawks and the manner from which they ran through the Sixers is just like, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And the Knicks have been ridiculously dominant. We're talking about this New York Knicks team. We're talking about Jose Alvarado, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Jordan Clarkson, Pacome Dadier, Mohamed Diawara, Josh Hart, Ariel Huckporty, Trey Jemison, Dylan Jones, Tyler Kolek, Miles McBride, Kevin McCullough Jr., Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, Jeremy Sohan, and Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is playing great ball as well. That pick and roll between him and Jalen Brunson is utterly unstoppable right now. Mikal Bridges has found his offense, which is very, very important given the fact that he had a bad season, but he's starting to pick it up now, which is perfect for the Knicks. And, obviously, OG Anunoby is a big-time player. Now we got to see where his health is at. I have yet to look at the injury report for this series, or at least Game 1. So let's go check that out now, see how things are expected to go from an injury standpoint. You're talking about, I didn't see an injury report at all. Okay, Larry Nance for the Cleveland Cavaliers is a game-time decision, and OG Anunoby is a game-time decision for New York. So, yeah, this is going to be a situation where you run into a Cleveland team that's healthy and is in a good rhythm, has had their back against the wall in this series, has had to, take down teams that are bigger and stronger than them. And I just think that when you're talking about trying to face a dominant Knicks team, you want what Cleveland has gone through to prepare you for that. And unfortunately for the Knicks, in my humble opinion, they are not necessarily properly prepared for the Cleveland Cavaliers fight and what the Cleveland Cavaliers have had to do to fight their way to these series. Through this series, they've been mowing past people, kicking people down. I just think that could be a potential fool's gold situation when you start thinking that you're better than you are, forgetting that you're not blowing past everybody, you're just blowing past 2 teams. You have to fight teams that fight back. Philly didn't really fight back. Atlanta, they won 2 games, but they didn't fight back. And so I just think that right now the Knicks, though they're playing like a buzzsaw and may continue to do that, I think they're going to run into a different level of intensity with this Cleveland Cavaliers team that does have players that are going to consistently get to the line, that does have rim protection that's going to match, what it is that they provide with Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson. You do got to deal with the Tomlins. You do have to deal with the young, players that are coming off the bench like Tyson and Proctor and, Tomlin once again. I just think that the Cleveland Cavaliers, they have a little more to throw at you than what Philly was able to. Philly's role players were not as reliable as the Cleveland role players. And I think that this is just going to be a real test for the New York Knicks going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers team that has already slayed giants to them. The Pistons are a giant to them. The Toronto Raptors are a bigger team than them. They've already slayed both of them, and they did it in, clutch fashion. They did it having to win Game 7s. And they did it in different facets, home court, non-home court, having lost the first 2 games in the Detroit series, coming back. I mean, they're battle ready, they're battle tested, much more battle tested than the New York Knicks, and I think that matters going into the series. You talk about the Twin Towers of the Cleveland Cavaliers and just what they're going to have to do. One of the things they're going to have to do is cover Karl-Anthony Towns behind the perimeter. This is not an interior battle. Obviously, when you're dealing with Jalen Duren, it's different dealing with some of the guys that the Toronto Raptors had. That's a very different roster than what the Pistons had as it pertains to the bigs and stuff like that. But when it comes to the New York Knicks, you gotta guard the perimeter. You have to get out there with him, and you gotta guard some of those other shooters that the Knicks have as well. They have several of them. But when it comes to the Cleveland Cavaliers, also the same thing. You got to get out on Max Strus. He's been shooting very well in these playoffs. Obviously, James Harden. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell. They have some guys who are shooting the ball very well. Sam Merrill's coming off a fantastic shooting night. We know he can hit shots. Dean Wade is another player that I believe can hit some shots here and there. So this is a Cleveland Cavaliers team that, can shoot the three a little bit, man. And it's going to be important for the New York Knicks to perimeter defend as well as they have. OG Anunoby is so important in this series, man. He's going to have to put a body on James Harden or Donovan Mitchell, whoever he's on. His health is very important. They cannot, in my humble opinion, afford to not have him out there on this one. They got away with it against Philly, hobbled Philly, flawed roster Philly. They need OG in this one. He can't not be out there, in my opinion. Evan Mobley, such an important piece, man. The Knicks are going to have to try to deal with him in the length that this Cleveland Cavaliers team provides. You're talking about Allen, Mobley, and Tomlin, all extremely long-armed players. The Knicks also have plenty of that, though. They should be able to match some of that with who they have. OG Anunoby, Karl Towns. Obviously, you're talking about Mitchell Robinson, another player that I think is extremely important in that regard. Is Mikal Bridges. So his matchup is going to be important. Who are they going to put Bridges on? How is he going to contribute to the offense? Does he go back to his 9-point scoring days? If that's the case, it could be a problem. Anytime you're talking about the New York Knicks now, you got to talk about Jose Alvarado and the idea that he's now playing playoff basketball. This is an opportunity for him to show people that he can finally be a part of something serious after being with the New Orleans Pelicans his whole life. If you are playing against Jose Alvarado, you're looking for the inbound steal. He has yet to do that in this series, in these playoffs. It's coming. It's coming. This is what he do. He'll hide behind a ref. He'll pretend like he's out of bounds. He'll do anything he can to catch you on an inbound play, steal it from you, and lay the ball up underneath you. It's something that I know to watch for with him, and have been calling it out the entire time he's been in the league. So I will do it here. Look out for that, Cleveland. Jalen Brunson just playing too great a ball. I don't even know what to do with him. At this point, he's playing so great. He's made me really question a lot. I said that I thought that Tyrese Maxey was playing better than him. He blew Tyrese Maxey out of the water. I have to just rethink that entirely. Jalen Brunson is such an unorthodox basketball player, and how he approaches attacking in the paint, how he's able to grift to get to the line. His three-point shot, when it's falling, he's nearly unstoppable. He's just playing excellent ball. He gets others involved where necessary. He holds up his own on the defensive end. He's just a tremendous basketball player, and he's going to have a world of responsibility in this series going up against both James Harden and Donovan Mitchell, who are going to try to match him. And we've seen, and we say it all the time with Donovan Mitchell, how well he's performed in playoff situations in the past. He is definitely talented enough. to match him bucket for bucket if it comes down to that. James Harden, obviously he's proven, we know what time it is, hungry for a championship. This is probably the best opportunity he's had in his career to get a championship. Probably. If not then probably his rookie season with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I don't think any of those Rockets teams were as close as people think they were. Brooklyn was obviously never really that close. I just don't think that he's ever really been in a situation like this where the role is set up for him. He has so much rim protection. Because as we remember with the Rockets, they literally removed his centers from his team and left him with a small ball lineup. This is a team where he legitimately has 2 or 3 players that can block everything, guys who could make up for his scoring deficiencies. Perimeter defenders around him should be able to make up for some of his issues. This is just the best situation for him that I think I've ever seen. And I expect for him to show out throughout the meat and potatoes of this series. He may not show up in the closeout game, Game 7. You expect for him to shoot poorly in that game. But their Game 2s and Game 3s, Game 4s, you better watch out for James Harden. A big game is definitely something to expect from him. And so energy of Josh Hart, energy of Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, always important, man. Miles McBride, great role-playing point of attack defender. I don't know what type of role he has at this point on the team right now. I don't know, but when he gets in, he's going to have to play some defense and hit his three-point shots. The matchup is tough, man. It's tough. I really think a guy like Jalen Tyson on the Cleveland side is so important to try to offset what OG and Mikal are going to be doing. So important that he has a really big series between him and who else am I talking about? Guys like Max Strus, Tomlin, Tyson, those forwards. How does that forward battle go? Is Tyson able to match some of what OG is going to be doing? Because OG is such a high level. Bridges, such a high level. Can Naquan Tomlin play well enough? Can Max Strus hit enough shots? Max Strus had a really nice playoffs, man. He looks really good. He's ready to go. He's been a part of that Miami system for so long. He did miss, I think, the playoffs maybe last year or the year before that with injuries or something like that. He missed a lot of time. He's healthy. He's ready to go. He's in his prime. I expect Max Strus to have a huge series against the New York Knicks. He is going to be very, very important. Dean Wade, how's he looking out there? 6'9" player, very important as well for the Cleveland Cavaliers, trying to offset that of what's going on. Energy. Jalen Tyson versus Josh Hart. That's the type of energy we talking about. That's clap your hands and nod your head type stuff. That's the type of energy I expect to come out of those players. Jared Allen blocking shots. Can they overcome Mitchell Robinson and what he's doing out there? Because Mitchell Robinson's obviously healthy for a change. You got to deal with that length coming off the bench for Karl Anthony Towns. There's constantly big body players on the floor. But I don't know if it equates to the size advantage that the Knicks would love to have, because you are dealing with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. 2 shot blocking phenoms, help on the offensive end, can go for all-star numbers. These are very, very talented bigs, and I think that Karl Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson have their hands tied. I think it's going to be an interesting series, though, because at the end of the day, these are 2 very different teams, particularly at the 4 spot. You're talking about a team like the New York Knicks that tend to win 3s and 2s at the 4 spot. That has its advantages, and it has its deficiencies. And when it comes to rebounding the basketball, I wonder if the advantage is not going to go Cleveland's way because of Evan Mobley and because of Jared Allen both being down there. As great of a rebounder as Josh Hart may be, and he does find a way to get rebounds over these people, he's going to have to in this series. He's going to have to rebound well. Karl, obviously you expect for him to rebound well. He's going to have to. OG, the rebounding issue for the Knicks, potential issue for the Knicks, is something that I'm circling. They're going to have to win the rebounding total somehow against some taller guys, longer guys. New York cannot turn the ball over against Cleveland. As I looked at the third game, this installment, the only game that's been had since James Harden and since they got Schroeder and stuff on the Cleveland Cavaliers, since Alvarado came to the Knicks, that one game spoke to the Knicks having trouble taking care of the basketball against this Cleveland defense. That's going to be very important in every game of this series. If the Knicks turn the ball over too much, they're going to have a lot of problems against Cleveland, man. They're going to have a lot of problems. Now, if they take care of the basketball, I like their chances. It should be a nice little dogfight shootout. But if they don't take care of the basketball, this thing is going to go bad for the Knicks. And, of course, vice versa. I think that kind of goes without saying. But I just think specifically the Knicks showing evidence to me in that third game installment that they turned the ball over too much and they lost by double digits. So that's something that I'm inclined to think could continue if they don't take care of the basketball. You know, orange and blue skies is a real thing. Obviously, you're talking about the New York Knicks and the aura around that team. Their fan base travels a lot, so I think they give themselves a different type of advantage on the road if that continues. We saw that in Philadelphia. You see it in Atlanta. You saw it here in the Lakers. When the Knicks come to town, they travel different. New York fans live everywhere. They are everywhere. They fly everywhere, and they buy up tickets. So it's going to be interesting to see if Cleveland can kind of stiff-arm them at the box office, try to keep them from taking over the arena in a demonstrative way, because if that happens, it could be a bit demoralizing for the home team. And when you don't have home court advantage, the last thing you want is the other team taking over the building when you do get to home court games. So that's something that I think is it's a six-man in a way. Sort of like we talk about Seattle in football, six-man. That's what the Knicks fans are. They really do contribute a lot with their energy, specifically on the road. So I'm paying attention to just how the Cleveland building is able to fill their fan base with their players. That's actually a variable that I can consider in the series. You want it to be loud. You want it to be, too loud for the Knicks to run their sets. You want it to be, you know what I mean? You want your fans in the building, especially at this time of year. So, yeah, man, I'm inclined to be up in the air when it comes to this series. I don't think there's specific advantages that come to mind that I can point to right away looking at these two teams, especially given the fact that they don't know one another that well. I don't know that one thing can usurp the other. When you look at the ability to stretch the floor with Karl Towns and the high-level play of OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson, that's could be something that blows the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers out. But when you look at the duo of Donovan Mitchell and James Harden, coupled with the duo of Allen and Mobley, and then the energy of Tyson and Tomlin and Strus, that could be something that overcomes the Knicks. So it's like I gotta almost see these two teams clash with one another for several games to really be confident that one thing is going to overcome or usurp the other. I think this is a very, very even series. And another thing is I've been underestimating the Knicks so much in these playoffs. Even though I picked them to win both series, I did not expect for them to blow teams out in the way that they did. They're just playing on a string right now. They're playing so well that you have to wonder if they can carry that over against really any opponent. Are they peaking at the right time? And if so, can it stretch through this series and into the NBA Finals? Or will they start to plateau? And if they do, get knocked over by one of these teams? That's the question. I don't know if we're seeing the best of the Knicks. Are they getting better? What's their health going to look like going forward? Can they stay as healthy as they've been? Same goes for Cleveland, obviously. But I just, when it really comes down to it, man, the Knicks are playing so damn well that I'm inclined to think that the Knicks are just a team that you have to bet on right now. They're just playing too damn well. They're just playing. The way that they looked against both Atlanta and Philadelphia is one of those things where it's like Cleveland played against a Detroit team that had its flaws, had players disappear in key areas. Their center position, for example, Duran's awful series. Guys disappeared in that Game 7 in ways that you didn't see throughout the course of the Stevens series right there. The Knicks, you can't expect for them to disappear like that. You can't expect to drop 2 games against this Knicks team like you did against the Pistons and expect you're going to be able to get back into the series. The Knicks are playing too well for that to be the case. Cleveland has to get one of these first 2 games in New York, or I think they can be out of here very soon. The injury to OG Anunoby is something that concerns me, though, for the Knicks. Because if he's not going to be available, I think they could potentially have some size issues. With the forwards, Jalen Tyson and Max Strus, they could have their way. James Harden and those guys won't have the adequate defense in front of them, the waves of defense in front of both Donovan Mitchell and James Harden that should be able to help neutralize them in key situations. OG is entirely too important. Entirely too important in this series, man. And with him not being 100% healthy, I'm a little concerned that if he tumbles forward and has some missed games here and there, those are going to be games that the Knicks lose. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. I really don't know. James Harden can't keep having disappearing act performances, though, man. I tell you the truth. He does tend to disappear. Donovan Mitchell had the game 6 where he disappeared. James Harden had game 7 where he disappeared. I haven't seen a whole lot of Knicks disappearing, man. Not in these playoffs. I ain't seen a whole lot of that. The Knicks are going to have to be prepared for the Cleveland Cavaliers' physicality, though. Because at the end of the day, when you fight 2 Bears and go the distance with both Bears and you come out the victor, you go up against a Knicks team that's they are energetic and they have some physicality, but not Detroit physicality, and they don't have the big, huge lineup of guys that the Toronto Raptors have. They don't have that. They're a little smaller. They're a little less athletic. They're a lot less physical, in my opinion. They're a little more finesse. And I just think that the Knicks could potentially be shell-shocked by the physicality of the Cleveland Cavaliers, because on paper you don't think that the Cavaliers are that physical. But when you look at who they just beat, they had to be physical to beat those teams. And I think that's going to play a real role in this series, especially as it extends into Game 5, Game 6, like that. Both of these teams could potentially be worn down, but I think the Knicks should, in theory, be have a real adjustment as it pertains to the physicality coming. Philly wasn't like that. They don't, they're not physical. Their biggest guy was out of the, hurt. They got little guys running around. That team was not a proper preparation tool to face the Cleveland Cavaliers if you're the Knicks. They were not. They did you no favors preparing you for this. Just like I feel like my Lakers did the Thunder no favors for preparing them for Wemby. Just sometimes playing on easy mode is to your detriment when you got big games to play against real teams. And so we're going to see how the Knicks come out in Game 1. It's going to be important for them to jump out on Cleveland, impose their will on Cleveland, and ride the home crowd to a victory. Because if Cleveland gets an early win in this series, it could be something that the Knicks are always playing from behind throughout the course of the series. I would not be entirely surprised if that's how this goes, where the Knicks are extending the series, but they're always behind because it's just one of those situations where the other team is used to playing at a higher level, forced to play with higher stakes on the line more often. Knicks have been coasting and relaxing, sitting on the couch. I'm worried about the Knicks when it comes to that type of crap, when you go up against a Cleveland team that's played 2 Game 7s against 2 Bears, basically. So, I really come to no conclusion. I think this series, the conclusion that I've come to is that there is nothing to really gain from looking at the data from the season. And when you consider the pros and the cons of both of these teams' paths up until this point, they balance themselves out. The Knicks have rested and have played at such a high level that they should be confident. The Cleveland Cavaliers have beat up on bigger teams, won 2 Game 7s in this series, won in different ways, found ways to overcome poor performances from key players, still alive, gotten a lot out of their role players, learning one another because they've made so many changes to their team in such a short amount of time. And then what they're finding is that they're way better than people thought. As they learn to who they are, they're finding out that they can win massive battles with one another. Like, this is a Cleveland team that's still writing its story as it pertains to their identity. The identity they're finding is we could be a championship club. And so that continues to write itself here. Now they go up against a Knicks team with all the confidence in the world, who've been blowing people out by 50. Who is this Cleveland team? They're still trying to figure it out. But one thing they know for certain is they've beat everything in front of them, but it took 7 games to do it, which means there's some flaws there. You didn't blow people out like the Knicks did. You were getting beat in these series against Toronto, against, Detroit. Those teams did find a way to pierce your armor to where it had to go to Game 7. Something's wrong. That you're not perfect. If you were, you'd be blowing everybody out. So it balances itself out. You know what I mean? I think the one thing that I can look at, though, and be certain of is that the New York Knicks have been playing at a level of basketball that I've never seen. I've never seen a Knicks team play as well as this Knicks team is playing right now. No Knicks team, none of them. History of the New York Knicks that I've ever seen. I've never seen the Knicks play this well. They never been this dominant. But that doesn't mean that they're going to walk into this series and just push over a team that's been knocking out Goliaths for them, to take Goliaths to them. You're just another Goliath to them and not the biggest one they've had to face. So, look, man, I think the New York Knicks are in for a wake-up call because their last two opponents have not been tough. Cleveland is. And I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are in a foxhole with a buzzsaw that's been licking their chops for 9 days to get back on the basketball floor, who's well rested. And they could be worn out from the fact they had to play two Bears. I think that makes sense that the Cleveland Cavaliers may not have a whole lot of energy for another game in 7 situation. James Harden's not a young pup, though most of the rest of this team is on the Cleveland Cavaliers. One of their main players is probably exhausted right now. That matters when you're going up against an energetic Knicks team with guys like damn Josh Hart and OG Anunoby and Brunson, and they got energetic players that are well rested. So that's where I think I'll leave it. I will say that the conclusion I've come to is Cleveland may run out of gas against this fast-paced buzzsaw of a New York team. I think New York could potentially get punched in the mouth in game 1, having been rusty from a 9-day layover. But with the rhythm that the Knicks are in, it's going to take but 2 games, 3 games for them to become who they're going to be. And I expect for that buzzsaw to start kicking in. And whatever issues that caused the Cleveland Cavaliers to lose 3 games against the Raptors, who are not as good as the Knicks, and the Detroit Pistons, who dumbed themselves down below the Knicks against the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think whatever those flaws are going to be exploited far more so by this Knicks team that's just playing at a level that's a little too high to expect that what Cleveland's been doing against those last 2 teams is going to be enough to get them through a series against this team. And that is the conclusion that I'm coming to. I'm going to say Knicks are going to the NBA Finals in 7. They will win the home game in 7. It's going to take the distance to win this, but I expect guys like James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, who have been somewhat inconsistent, to ultimately not afford the luxury of being inconsistent against this Knicks team that's just playing too damn well. It's going to be a size thing that they're going to have to figure out. It's going to be a little tricky once you start talking about what Evan Mobley's ceiling is, what he could potentially do when he's going up against guys like Josh Hart and OG Anunoby. He's just tall and long. He's going to be able to get offensive boards in key situations. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes Cleveland's way, if Mobley's having a huge series, rebounding the ball and blocking shots and scoring at a high level. His three-point shot is entirely too serious. He needs to hit that shot. Jalen Tyson's ceiling, he's a wild card. Who knows? He's continuing to write his story. We don't know where he's going to be from here. We've seen guys make names for themselves in the playoffs. Guys like A.J. Mitchell, etc. I would expect that he can do that in this series because this is a series tailor-made for his energy. Same thing with Max Strus, tailor-made for his energy. Those guys play at a high enough level to where they have a better series than Bridges and Hart, and this could go Cleveland's way for certain, especially with the rim protection that they are afforded behind them. And Allen, Mobley, Tomlin, etc. So this is a close series. That's why I'm saying it's going 7. But at the end of the day, I just think that the Cleveland Cavaliers, you've been punched hard by 2 very, very physical teams. And while you may be ready to exert that energy in the first couple of games, as this series extends, you should, in theory, run out of gas, man. Cleveland should, in theory, run out of gas. You just can't keep doing this, and then going up against a team that's better than you, the New York Knicks, who's had rest, who's played against people who are not that physical, who are good enough to match the intensity of you once they start getting their mojo going. Now, the Knicks, in the presence of being a team that has been rested, if that hurts them early and they lose both games at home, I do not think they win this series. The Knicks cannot lose the first 2 games at home and expect to win this series. Absolutely not. And I think there's a world where the Knicks are so flat and so rusty from this rest that the Cleveland Cavaliers have been playing at such a high level, and they've been putting in so much purpose into what they've been doing and having their back against the wall and all that. If the Cleveland Cavaliers come out and that's the story of the first 2 games, forget what I said. It's going to be Cleveland in 6. But if the Knicks are able to take advantage of home court, and this series goes fairly well for the Knicks early on, and they withstand the adjustment period to the rust and the physicality, then I expect for the Knicks to take care of this thing in 7. So that is going to be my ultimate prediction. I think that's what's going to happen. I think the Knicks, even though they're a little rusty, they ain't going to be that damn rusty. They've been playing too well to be that damn rusty. I think they're going to probably win one of those 2 games in the first 2 games of the series. The series will probably be another split. I expect for the Knicks to win Game 5, even though Cleveland has won both of the Game 5s in this playoffs. So Game 5 will be a serious game, assuming it gets to that. And then I think we're going to have a situation where it goes 7, and the New York Knicks will win the game at home, behind their home crowd. James Harden probably have another disappearing act. You know, that kind of thing is just to be expected at this point. It's like clockwork. So that's what it really comes down to, man. I think it's very close. I think this series could go either way, but I do expect that my prediction of Knicks in 7 is a sound one. But the Knicks are going to have to overcome early rust and adjust quickly to the level of intensity and physicality that I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are just conditioned for based on their last 2 previous opponents. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Be ready for a battle. This should be a battle. I don't think the Knicks are just going to kick this team over and run out of here. I don't think anybody should be too surprised if they sweep this team with how well they've been playing, but I just don't think that the Cleveland Cavaliers should be mistaken as the Atlanta Hawks or the freaking Sixers, because this Cleveland team is a lot better than those 2 teams, and the Knicks had better be ready for that or they can lose this series. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to win this series. I think they're going on to the NBA Finals. Knicks in 7, BDL 44. I thank y'all for watching.